Thank you. Okay, so we're not going to discuss this because we're in the present status quo and we're in ongoing negotiations between AAUP and the college, so we can't discuss that one. So we'll remove that. And Martha, you want to
The regular meeting of March 27th.
remove
Just one minor
remove
correction.
that. Okay, remove the minutes from March 27th from the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, we have some public comment.
We do Bethany Carson.
Are you going to sit there? Okay. Do you want to stand with us, India? You can stand up. Do you want to say hi?
Yeah. Hi.
You can say hi too. Do you want to say hello? Can you lean over? Say hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, mommy's turn now. Okay. Okay. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Bethany Carson, and I'm an assistant professor of English here at SFCC. These are my kids, Zinnia and Zealand.
Is there water?
Yeah, I'm going to be quiet now, okay? I started working here 17 years ago when I was 25. My kids spent their entire preschool lives here since they were 8 months old as students at Kids Campus. You could say that all three of us have grown up in SFCC in one way or another. It has truly become a second home, another family for us. I deeply love our SFCC community. I am committed to this place. But it seems that during the process of negotiations, there has been a loss of focus on the people that are impacted, as well as a loss of focus on the ideals that colleges should embody. When standard raises are denied, when standard raises are denied, real individuals in our community suffer. An extra $50 a month means a lot in a single-parent household like mine. But beyond such financial strain, even more concerning is the breakdown of conversation between members of our community. When we decline discussion in favor of arbitration, we join a growing culture that denies the differences can be understood. We participate in the new norm of denigrating civil discourse. I'm sure that we all agree that institutes of higher education like ours should actually exemplify the opposite. As a teacher, a mother, a colleague, and a friend to many on both sides of this issue, I encourage SFCC's governing board to remember the human impact of its decisions. I also call on our college to continue to work toward a mutually agreed upon contract, one that we can all be proud of as a community united for a common larger cause, supporting the current and future students of our community. Thank you.
Now can I say hi?
Thank you.
again?
I think you said hi enough.
No.
Say bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
My name is Zuby Wilson, and I am a full-time faculty member here, and I am the chair of the Faculty Senate, but I'll get to that later on in the meeting today. I'm speaking here right now as a member of the community, a taxpayer, and a constituent to the members of the board. Two things I wanted to talk about. One is that there's a lot of discussion at this point in time nationally about income inequality. We even have some of the most wealthy people in the country talking about how important it is that we begin to address that issue. And the reason I bring it up is as you're beginning to look at the salary schedules for people all across campus, there's been discussion, I know a proposal from the administration that we do across the board 4% raises. I know that in the past, the Faculty Senate has always come forward and suggested that when we do raises, that they do not be across the board. Every time we have a straight percentage across the board to everyone, it greatly exacerbates the income inequality here on this campus. When the people at the bottom who are really scraping by get very little, and the people making the highest wages get very significant raises, much more than twice the amount of the people at the bottom. So I'm hoping that the board will consider, whenever we're going to give raises, that as we did when we took the wage cuts, that they not be across the board, but rather be tiered. I'm not going to propose what the tier structure should be like, but I think that it would be best to begin to give the raises to the people at the bottom at the expense of the people making the much more money. And that really, they would still get a much higher dollar amount raise than the people at the bottom. But if we're not going to greatly exacerbate this problem on our campus, we need to begin to address it. I also am concerned that while money has been budgeted for full-time faculty raises on campus, it has not been granted. And I believe it is the legislative intent from many legislators I've talked to that the intent was that full-time faculty would get raises. There's nothing statutorily that would stop that. At this point, probably the most reasonable thing is to bonus out full-time faculty for the lost wages for them not getting the same raises that everybody else on campus got. So I'm suggesting that that may be the course forward. And if the board is not restricting the president from doing that, I would hope that President Cervantes could take that on herself. If it is, the board is putting a restriction on the president from actually allocate that money and spend it on bonuses, I hope the board will come forward and take responsibility for that themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for taking the time to listen to our comments. I wanted first of all to say that I've been actually at SFCC since 1999 in both the position of adjunct faculty and full-time faculty. And I've spoken here before, and right now I just feel that it's urgent once more to state that we as faculty want very much to see a resolution long before anything went to arbitration. And I wanted to read a little bit of what I wrote recently. Santa Fe Community College is an asset to our community and in general is a wonderful place to work. There are many talented, educated, dedicated, and giving professionals that make up our institution and contribute to its success. I would agree with Bethany that I love working here, and it's uncomfortable being on two different sides of a discussion. But what I'm hoping that will be seen is that it's so valuable to place a high level of priority on taking care of the faculty. In the last couple of years that I've been full-time faculty recently and chair of the World Languages Department, I have never worked so hard and been so stressed in my entire life, to the point that it started to almost affect my classroom, and that's when I realized that's a big red flag. And I'm passionate about my students and providing the highest level of quality to them. I'm disappointed that the shouts for help and the squeaky wheels not getting the grease, so to speak, with some of the things that need to be addressed. So the workload and the pay for full-time faculty are critical. Something that I think that sometimes gets overlooked in all of the paperwork and things that I've been poring over that are going back and forth, whatever I'm able to look at, is the amount of time that faculty spend that can't really be measured. And one of the issues that I think gets overlooked is the time outside of the classroom, the grading papers, the lesson plans, the answering phone calls and emails of needy students, and in all of the details that are getting being negotiated, I feel like some of that extra time gets left out. The boundaries for our workload are often blurred because we aren't here 8 to 5 only. We don't go home and leave our work at the doorstep when we leave. I've seen many quality people leave this place because of that. And I think that our students, I know that our students have suffered. So to continue to see faculty be well cared for, I should say better cared for, I would hope that a tremendous effort would be made not to go to arbitration, but to work together cooperatively to see a better partnership and better lives for everybody. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm Karen Heiken. I'm an adjunct on campus here. I have spent my life teaching, and it's more years than I want to tell you about. But the one thing that I know that it was a constant the whole time that I was teaching is that teachers are paramount to all communities, and they're always underpaid. And I've never been any place, and I've taught a lot of places, I've never been any place that is not true. And that needs to be addressed in a way that makes it more equal for people that spend their lives not just in a classroom, but that, like the last lady talked about, is how many hours you spend outside the classroom to do that quality work. I also know that there has been lawyers hired by people, and they are paying these lawyers, and if you looked at the salary that the lawyers are getting compared to a teacher, to stop the union from being and stop this ability to unionize, there is quite a difference in the salary of those people and the teachers on this campus. I know that you have legal fees that you pay, and you could pay them to the teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am not in academia, but I do spend quite a bit of my professional career educating people, and I do understand and appreciate how important it is to provide a high-quality education. And as a member of the community of Santa Fe, I recognize that it's really important that we have a strong bridge between primary education and the professional careers that people take on later in life. And to grow this community, that's important because we don't want to lose all of the technical talent and skills that we home grow in Santa Fe. We don't want them to leave the community. We want them to stay. We want that to be retained. So you guys have the responsibility of being part of that bridge, of retaining those skills and talents. And so I hope you appreciate that and use that power to make education a respectable career so that our educators feel like this is a worthy job and a worthy pursuit in their own professional career. And just as a side note, we all interact, as part of this community, we all interact with people who have been through the community college. For instance, my wife recently was treated for some health needs at St. Vincent Hospital, and her nurses, several of them went through the nursing program here, and they did a great job, and we were really appreciative. So it is important to all of us, even those who aren't involved in academia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Wendy Volkman. I'm here as just a community member, somebody who lives and works in Santa Fe and wants to spend my time around well-educated people who can be responsible citizens. I am really worried about the world because I think unions are part of the American way. They're part of the way that we make sure that power is distributed more equally and that people who are working hard at their jobs can collectively bargain to meet their basic needs. And I'm worried about the world where we're seeing union busting all over campuses. And I hope that that won't continue here. I hope that you will continue to negotiate in good faith and not take this to arbitration. And that's what I have to say. So I'm holding out that you will do well by this union. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it? All right, thank you all very much. Are these our
Students?
LPN students? Do they want to have a picture?
Yeah. Sure. We should.
Are all these LPN students? They're students and family? Oh, good. So did you all graduate?
Oh, they're just starting.
They're just starting? Oh, this is the
starting.
beginning class
Yeah.
of
Why don't you-
LPN.
Yes.
Tell us about them, yes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, President Cervantes, sorry for the interruption, but this is a momentous time today. We have selected 14 Capitol High School sophomores to become our first cohort starting this fall when they're juniors for our licensed practical nurse program. So I had asked if they could come and meet you all, and so they are here. So I don't know if you want to hear from a couple of them or if you just want to do pictures. Okay. Do we have any of our prospective students who would like to come and just say a few words about who they are? Any brave souls?
For how you decided to get in the program?
Right, or why you're interested, how you, oh, great, oh, we're.
Yay, yay, with a little encouragement.
Just say your name.
My name is Stefania Cordova. I'm really excited for this program. It's really interesting, and this is something related to the career I want to do. And I think this is a great opportunity, and I want to thank the LPN teachers for giving me this great opportunity for my life.
Great, thank you.
Is this your teacher?
So my name is Angela Ortiz. I'm faculty here, SFCC. I've been here 8 years, and I actually graduated from Capitol High School. So I'll be teaching nursing at Capitol High School.
And you studied at SFCC?
Well, I did get 2 degrees from SFCC, but not in nursing. My nursing I got at Luna Community College in Las Vegas. And then I got my advanced degrees at UNM.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Well, all the students, you want to come and stand right here, and we can stand behind you and get a picture?
How do you want to do
How
it?
do you want to do it?
Can you come behind?
I'll come behind.
And then if you all stand up,
Okay.
that would be great.
Are you sure we won't cover them up? If they
Maybe
stand
we
up?
should stay seated.
Seated. Yeah, I think, because that way they'll be taller than us.
Yeah, let's
So how many students are there, Jenny? 14. And you're all sophomores? Yes. Have you already been taking some allied health type curriculum? Studying and...
Your medical pathway classes.
keep coming down this way a little bit.
Pathway classes?
Yes.
Okay, well, yeah, he'll get you organized.
Come this way a little bit.
So I'm the college president, and these are all the governing board members. They're elected to oversee the college. So we're very proud of you. We're very proud of you. This is wonderful, and your sophomores and already have some training and career pathway, huh?
And when you graduate, you'll have an LPN degree.
Yes, and then you can go on to.
We need you. Okay.
We do.
Or, sorry, on my right, other one, yeah.
Are you seeing everybody?
All right, take a look at me, and
Right.
So your entire program will be paid for, right? All the entire, yeah. So proud of you. Congratulations. And thanks for bringing your families. Gracias, familias, por estar aquí. Tenemos mucho orgullo por los estudiantes. Gracias a ustedes. I was worried. Jenny, were they having like an overview or an orientation today?
Yes, Dr. Cervantes, they're having a 2-hour orientation here to see the labs that they're going to be using at some point, and we've invited their families because it is a group effort, as you know, takes a village. Yes. And so we wanted their families, if they had questions and orientation and all of that.
So are they going back to orientation?
They are. They're going back to the nursing lab. And just so you know, the junior year will mostly be spent on their campus, and then they'll start to do clinicals, and then we'll bring them over here for the simulation lab, especially that second year.
And Jenny, I know that the development of the curriculum was covered by a Con Alma grant.
That's right.
That we received.
That's right.
And so now that the students are actually going to take the courses, where's the tuition coming from?
Well, hot off the press, we haven't been told officially, but we did apply again to, well, actually it was to Ankrum, which is the related to Christus. They own 50% of Christus. That's right. That's what used to be Support Co. And they had for the first time this year, they had an application process for some grant funding. They had approximately, I think, 3 different categories. One of them was education. And we collaborated with the Capitol High School administration and submitted with the executive team's approval here a grant to provide funding for the students' tuition, well, whatever dual enrollment would not cover, like, so vaccinations, fingerprinting, drug screen, textbooks, equipment. And I think Ankrum liked our request so much, they pulled us out of the grant process. And so we had Deborah Bolton and Terry and I had a separate follow-up interview, and we're going to be receiving funding so that these 14 that you saw will not have to pay out of pocket for any student additional fees.
Great, nice job.
Yes, thank you all.
And if I could, I'd love to introduce to you all our partners from Capitol High School.
Yes.
Natalie?
It's exciting.
Hello, good evening. I'm Natalie Garcia, and I'm one of the teachers at Capitol High School in the medical pathway. And so these are some of our students that we've had and have worked collaboratively with Jenny and Terry and Angela as well to get this LPN program up and going. So we're super excited, and we appreciate all your help and support that the community college has given us these last actually several years with not just the LPN, but also with our CNA classes that we offer at Capitol, as well as the medical terminology classes, and then having students come here on campus. So we really appreciate the collaboration and support and the relationship we have with community college. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm Jennifer Bakovich, and I also work with Natalie in the medical pathway. And there's not much else to say other than we're very excited to see this group of young people kind of spread their wings and get started with this program. So thank you for everything and the support. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Cervantes, you wanna?
Yes, thank you, Chair Siegel and members of the board. I continue and am going to present our employees of the month. First, we have the Pass It Forward, and Melanie Cebada from the Welcoming and Advising Center was nominated by Eva Martinez from Adult Ed. Is Melanie here?
She's not, but she sent a statement.
Okay.
She said, "Thank you so much. I am honored to receive the Pass It Forward award. I have worked for SFCC for 2 years and love what everyone does for our students. I am grateful to work with great people that inspire our students every day to achieve their career goals. I would also like to thank Rod Hansen for choosing me for this award. Thank you."
Melanie. Let's give her a hand in absentia. Next, we have the Wow Graham Award, and Paloma Trujillo Anaya from Continuing Ed was nominated by Chris Swadine from Continuing Ed, and they're both here, so please come forward.
Good evening, Chairman Siegel and board members, President Cervantes, thank you. We're always very excited to come and talk about continuing education because we have a lot of exciting things happening. And one of the things that's allowing us to do such a good job for our students is our wonderful staff, and Paloma in particular. Our customer service was a little bit lacking when I first came here a couple of years ago, so we made it a top priority. And every week, somebody comes into my office, one of our students, to tell me how much Paloma has helped them. Wow. She's gotten to know the regular customers. She knows a lot about them. She knows what path they're on, what class happens next. And she really takes time to make sure that they're happy and know where to come if they have any questions. So I'm just very proud of her, and I'm so glad that we were able to nominate her and that she got this award.
Good evening. I'm truly grateful for this award and for the continuing education program. About 2 years ago, I was going through a hard time in my life and could not get a job. After taking the Continuing Education Professional Readiness Program, or PROTEC, the instructors realized that working for the CE office would be a good fit for me. The people I work with have truly become family, and I am so happy and proud that my hard work has paid off. Thank you.
Congratulations. And while Continuing Ed is here, I know that your new schedule just came out and that you'll be having an open house soon.
May 21st, if you'd like to come, between 10 and 2, we're having a number of our instructors come who will be presenting, a little mini version of what they teach. And we'll have some refreshments, of course, and maybe a little music. So yes, and we just had our new schedules. And we have our kids programming. We have about half of our enrollment that we expect for summer with the kids programs already. Usually we have about 500 students, and there's about 260 that are signed up so far. So if any of you here still need to get a kid signed up for a class, especially swimming, please call us and we'll help you.
Yes. Congratulations again, Paloma, and thank you both for being here, because we appreciate hearing from you.
Okay.
Continue. Yes, Madam Chair and members of the board, I continue with my April President's Report. So we did receive approval from the HED for the Automotive Technology Center, and that was approved on the 15th of April, so we're really happy that we got that approval. I also want to say that the architect is working on the restuccoing plans for the Fitness Education Center, and that should be done before the end of June. We had to wait till it warmed up and then go through the process. Continuing the projects for the 2018 bond election, you have their different learning space and main campus improvements. We just today had a wonderful tour of the greenhouse and saw the great work that's going on there, that our students are learning in controlled agriculture and in solar, biofuels. It's really fantastic. So we're thrilled that our bond money helped to support the greenhouse, and that we also received $150,000 from the Capital Investment Fund from the legislature. So that is going to help. And then we've got a variety of projects that we're going to fund and improve the welding lab, expand the welding lab with more stations, program that's really in demand. And then we're working on improving the dust collection system in the woodworking labs also. Moving on to leadership to support the college to increase student success. During the recent legislative session 2, Santa Fe Community College students Tintawi Kaisabiner He's pursuing an associate in creative art, creative writing, and Joshua Trujillo pursuing an associate's in human services were recognized as academic all-stars, and they received the recognition accompanied by Dr. Andrew Lovato, Phi Theta Kappa advisor. In our welding program, our curriculum, I should say, the welding technology program curriculum was reviewed by the United Association, the Union of Plumbers, Fitters, Welders, and Service Technicians, and they determined that the students who complete the SFCC program are eligible for direct entry into the United Association of Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, Welders, and HVACR Technicians through UA Local 412. So that is fantastic. Let's see, moving on. It's a busy time. We have a lot of end of the semester activities going on. They include readings in the library. The next one that's scheduled is on May 1 at 4:30, where we have Instructor Julia Deisler's students that are reading from their portfolios, and on May 9th at 5 p.m. faculty and staff reading will occur. Let's see, on April 5th, we had an induction of the National Society of Leadership and Success, and we did that in conjunction with Northern New Mexico College. And that same evening, we had our Phi Theta Kappa chapter of Alpha Kappa Xi that held its induction ceremonies also. So we honored our students and their success in leadership and academics. On April 16th, the College and Career Transition Workshop was held, and it was to encourage our ABE graduating students to continue their studies beyond the high school equivalency at the college. And we wanted to just motivate them some more, so we started talking about why not see if we could get some of the restaurants that we have supported, if they would support our students. And so thanks to Kelly Smith, Megan McGarity, and Joanne Romero, we got gift cards from Posas, Muchos, Firehouse Subs, and Parasol that we handed out to students that were attending the workshops as just a little motivation and incentive. So we really thank our restaurant sponsors. On April 16th, we also had a wonderful One World, Many Cultures activity that was sponsored by the Office of Student Activities, Enlace, Student Ambassadors, Student Government Association, and the President's Diversity Advisory Council. We had all kinds of events that celebrated the diversity and multiculturalism here at our college. One of my favorite events was the Fishbowl, where we had different people from different backgrounds talking about what diversity and multiculturalism meant to them. That was a lot of fun. And we had food truck cuisine from different cultures. That was also fun. Thanks to Ernest, to Maria Elias, and to so many others who supported that event. It was a lot of fun and very well attended. I do also want to mention that there was a lot of things happening on April 16th. This is the third one that I want to mention. And at our higher education center, we had a rapid hire event sponsored by the Department of Workforce Solutions. And I mean, Megan could not come to our executive team meeting because she was there directing traffic. There were so many people in line. They were out the door as it opened. And over 350 job seekers attended. And there were 75 representatives from different organizations that were screening and conducting interviews. So, of course, on April 15th, we finished up our free tax preparation partnership with AARP, and we had so many different individuals, 200 more tax forms that were prepared from last year. So we had 1,826 tax returns that were prepared. So it worked very well moving the service over to the Higher Education Center, and I really want to thank Megan McGarity for her leadership and making sure that it was successful. Thank you, Megan. And let's see, moving on, I want to mention that our graduate Kyle Pacheco from the Culinary Arts program, he competed for the second time at the Chaîne de Rôtisseurs Far West competition. Last year's was held here and he won. This year was held in LA. He won again. And so he is going on to Pittsburgh to compete at the National Chanderutasur competition on June 1. So we're so proud of Kyle. You see on the list, if you keep going down and on your copy, that there's a bunch of upcoming events that are occurring in May. And, just wanted you to notice those, and maybe if you can participate. Something that isn't up there, 2 things. Beginning today, actually, and going through the 2nd, we have a Native American Week that we're celebrating at the college. And on Thursday, there's going to be a craft fair going on. And then also on May 1st, a couple of things did make it up there, that's why I'm mentioning it to you. And that May 1 foundation hosts a luncheon with tribal leaders has been postponed. That's not going to occur until September. It was going to work out better for the tribal leaders, the governors of the pueblos. But also on May 1st and 2nd, you can't miss, those of you that are shopping, our glass sale is occurring. So we're going to have on May 1st and 2nd the glass sale, and then on the 2nd we're going to have the Native American craft fair going on. So a lot of shopping that you can do. And let's see, I want to wrap it up because I get carried away because there's so many wonderful things occurring on the campus. And we had on Friday our annual Service and Faculty Staff Excellence Awards. Many who retired were recognized, as were faculty and staff who have contributed so much to the college. Last reminder that the campus cupboard opened its new on-campus location downstairs from the campus center on April 15th, and thanks to all who are bringing donations for the campus cupboard. Last thing is that our contract for Better Tomorrow Scholarship Luncheon was held on April 11th, and we honored student recipients who are receiving the contract for Better Tomorrow scholarships. Thank the donors, recognize the students, and speakers Cheyenne Padilla and Eliazar Flores were outstanding representatives of our students. And I will end there, and if anyone has questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, I see you're going to leave, so do you want to give us your student council, student government report, since you have to go at 6:30?
Thank you.
Okay.
My apologies, I have to be at work at 7. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Noemi Bojorquez Flores. On my report here, we have the event that President Cervantes mentioned, One World, Many Cultures. There were about 1,000 attendees. 600 meals were provided. There were great performances from bands, dance performances. We had the DUI virtual goggles. And we announced the new SGA team. Also, voting happened for 2 weeks from April 1st through April 12th. There were a total of 200 voters. 156 online votes happened and 44 paper votes took place, which is an increase of 500% from when we started, which is very exciting. Also, the 2019-2021 elect team is President Ian Martinez, Vice President Sherry Trusty, and Secretary Elisa Anaya. So that is the incoming team for SGA. The Santuario Walk had CSERT team support. 10 participants were present in support of the walkers headed to the Santuario. This included a member of SGA. Policy 6-14 was presented to SGA April 10th. We had about 40 attendees. Recommendations were made for this policy by students. It was a very productive meeting and great student engagement. Also, SGA with student ambassadors were part of the PTK World of Leaders. There were 7 total volunteers, and we served about 50 people for this one. And our last SGA meeting was April 24th, 2019, official meeting, but we will have to hold a special session to vote on our budget. So that is going to be determined hopefully by the end of this week. And that is all in my report. Thank you very much.
Any questions? All right,
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you. You've done really good work.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, is this your last meeting?
No, I will finish until June, and my last meeting will be in June.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, enrollment report.
I wonder if it might be appropriate
Okay.
for the next agenda item to come
Sure.
first, just because of a timing.
Okay, great. Ernest, Gerard.
Madam Chair, board members, thank you for the opportunity for Gerard and Ernest to speak. I won't really be the one to stay up here. As we know, the gap that we have as far as the achievement gap, the success rate of Hispanic males is a national situation. Hispanic males are the lowest accomplishing population nationwide as far as graduation rates and continuation through college. We didn't get the exact numbers today, but what we did spend the last 2 years doing was looking at the research and what really led to success in these areas. And through a meta-analysis that was done, everything came that those networks, support networks, a sense of family, a place where relationships are built. We worked on a project this past year called M for M, the Male Achievement Network, Men for Men Male Achievement Network. And it is made up, comprised of different entities at the school, everyone who's already doing something in working on a way to bring it together. And I'm really going to let the gentlemen who are here today do the speaking, but it's about having advisement and the student government and tutoring and all of those entities that already do exist, networking and creating a broader network for these men so that they can be successful and see that they do have a comprehensive group of people who support them and who are behind them. So at this point, I'll just hand this over to those gentlemen who have been doing the good work.
Thank you, Dr. Bustamante. Members, Madam President, and both Madam Presidents, thank you for having us here. Hello. I just want to point out first of this photo, that is not a picture of a reunion band. That's some of us that are involved in the project here. So we've been talking about this issue for a while. It's also some of the underlines that we have casually in conversations that it's some of the things that we notice a dynamic in that, you know, we have an issue here and we have a graduation gap. And it is our goal to hopefully see that there isn't a gap. And I know that's ideal, but I think it's worthy to go and go after it. What we're asking for you, we're going to give you some overall concept of this, but also for your support to move forward. I think we've had some efforts this year, thanks to Ernest and his staff and some of the advising staff and other areas around the campus that are, you know, counseling, that are getting into working with the students. And we've had a couple models that are existing right now that succeed. TRIO's a really good example. Member Keith will also know that previously we had the Accelerate program. And one of the things that I remember about the Accelerate program when I ran that program, and I did approach this board some 4 or 5 years ago, we had a graduation rate of 35% at the time. And at that time, the institutional rate was 14%. So this type of program does work. Now, we're taking a look at doing this, you know, campus-wide. What we're looking at also is that, you know, we're not the only ones doing this throughout the country, as Camilla alluded to. There are other places that the models are really working, and we need to adopt to that. But one of the key things that we have found out, and I'll also let Mr. Kavanaugh talk a little bit about it, is coordination. What we're asking a lot of staff to do is come to the table, but we already have our plates pretty full. And I know you hear this a lot from folks. But one of the key things that we're missing is someone to be able to coordinate those efforts. Neither of us can. None of us can. I know Ernest is probably doing about 3 different jobs. Seriously, he is. And we can't ask him or any of his students because they're they're being asked to do a whole lot more as their program is so good and successful, and that's kind of the price you pay for being successful. Other people want to see those students involved on campus or off campus and assisting throughout the community. So that's one of the things that we've talked about, and this possibility might be having that type of position into the Title V grant. Hopefully that and maybe some matching funds from this governing body. What we see too is when we're meeting with students, we have a lot of anecdotes, and we're not going to stay here till next Tuesday to tell you about the stories that we have. I know just between Ernest and I alone, we have several. A lot of success stories too. We see those students. You've heard all these stories. You know what? You know, we're a Pell Grant institution here. We're a minority serving institution. And we want to see that gap close, and close to the door is shut, that there is no more gap. And that's really I can't emphasize that enough, because when we see that graduate crossing the stage with their family, they're not only getting our degree, but they're getting a job, and it's a career-related job, and that's what we want to be able to see. And that's what we're trying to do is help give them the pathway to success, trying to get the resources to help them with that. And again, it's really tough when it's just meeting a bunch of us and we're trying to coordinate. We really need that one person. Camilla's done a lot of it, and we know she has her plate full as well. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I'll turn it over to Mr. Kavanaugh to talk a little bit about it too.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Ah, mira qué suave, si habla en español. Es muy difícil, ¿no? Para nosotros cuando tenemos los estudiantes que vienen para acá y dicen, pues, ¿cómo lo hacemos? ¿Cómo lo vamos a hacer en esta educación? And we tell them, you know, students come in and say, well, how are we going to do it in this educational setting? You know, I'm the first generation. I'm the first one to come to college. And there's questions they don't even know what to ask when they get here, just like I did many years ago. And so one of the things that I know Gerard and folks like Camilla is, we're a Hispanic serving institution, ¿qué no? I look back at my peers and I'm amazed at some of these folks, maybe not be in the audience, but were my teachers that taught me how to get educated. The success, some of my success is their success, because they taught me and they gave me some language to use that I never used before. So the ripple effect for me is watching los estudiantes de aquí que vienen, and they don't, you know, if we have a 3 to 13% graduation rate on our Hispanic males, something's wrong. Something's really wrong. If we're looking for the leaders of today and tomorrow, and Gerard and I are, and the other folks that you see up there in the trenches, we need folks that can gather this and pull it together. We don't no longer have plates. We have buffet tables. I'll be honest with you. I'm beyond my capacity of what I challenge my students and my staff to do, as I know you and you guys do. And I know you do. If you didn't believe in what you were doing, you wouldn't be sitting up there. I believe in you guys that are sitting up there too. So when they came to me about Men for Men, I was scared. What is Men for Men? What are you talking about? I'm in the trenches every day working with young males. I just got back from Glorieta. I was 3 days and 2 nights in Glorieta with the charter school, our master school on campus, the leadership of about 35 young high school college students dual enrolled. And these kids come, and they're feeders into our campus. And then I work dual enrollment with kids from Capitol and Santa Fe High, and like these young ladies that came here. And I try to turn them on that Santa Fe Community College is the best opportunity you can have in your own backyard. And we got the incredible people here that'll help you navigate that. The challenge is that I find sometimes here is, you know, when they were talking to me about this, and we had these meetings, and I'm like, and we had some of the females in our meetings, right? Talking about male achievement. And Camila, and I'm looking at Camila, I'm like, what's your vision? What does this mean? And I'm going to ask you all up there, how important do you all believe Hispanic success for our minorities is at Santa Fe Community College? We'll start with Martha. What do you believe, and what do you know of the success or percentages of our Hispanic males on this campus?
We need more. That's the first thing. We need people who can help them
navigate the systems, because many of them don't understand what they come from the high school, they've been successful in the high school. They think college is just like high school. You go to school, you take the classes they tell you, and then you graduate. And they don't understand the difference in a college setting. And so I think one of the major things we can do is to help them understand how this is different and what it is that helps them get through.
Jack?
I think it's extremely important because as an HSI institute, not only do we have a commitment by virtue of that to serving Hispanic students, but we have, quite frankly, the population that we're serving is heavily Hispanic. So let's face it, even if we didn't feel that serving Hispanic students were a good idea, these are the students that are there and that are looking for educational opportunities. Now, that said, I would add that one of the biggest problems that we need to overcome is that lack of communication to these students as they're graduating as to what opportunities are here. And in many cases, we're dealing with students who do not have that family support structure, who do not have parents or grandparents who went to college. And so they don't have that motivation from the family to push them to explore what these opportunities are. So we have an obligation to do that, and we're starting to do that pretty well. We're going into the high schools, we're going into new venues to talk, and we're beginning to, I think, get the word out. The foundation is bringing students onto campus for tours and so forth. The male Hispanic, which is your question and your issue, has been a tough nut to crack. That really has. And I'm so glad to see that you've got some ideas on that and that you're working on that. I don't know if it's a perception that college is for women. I don't know if it's a perception that it's not masculine, that it's not macho to carry books around, to have a computer and to go to class. I think there's some structural things that we need to address that go beyond saying, look, if you get a welding degree, we're going to get you, or you're going to get yourself a job that may pay up to $50,000 a year. It goes beyond that. I think we have a cultural thing that we need to discuss with our potential male students. And certainly the best persons to do that are Hispanic students, or Hispanic male faculty, or Hispanic male staff members. And there's that relationship that's so strong that I think will get someone on campus and say, you know, this is the right thing to do. This is something that you will not only excel at, but will give you a feeling of accomplishment in your community. So I think that cultural part of it is where we can really make progress. So go for it.
And I want to be respectful to time, because I know there's some folks here. Unless anyone else would like to address that up there, or I'd be glad to continue this.
I just want to say one thing. I mean, we live in a community with generations of Hispanic families, and we have such an obligation here to help keep families together and keep people living in this community. And we have to address that on so many levels, not only here at the college on education, but affordable housing and places where people can live once they get their degree from the Santa Fe Community College. We had a great tour of the greenhouse earlier today, where our faculty and staff were talking about we're attracting a lot of young men into working in these professions, the greenhouse and solar and welding, because they're attracted to the fact that they're going to get a job. And then once we get them in with all these courses, we can convince them, well, why don't you take English and sociology or whatever so you can get a degree that will also help you get a better job. So it's our total obligation to serve the community where we reside.
I just wanted to point out, Mr. Sullivan, that we're actually looking at $65,000 plus with a welding certificate. And if they get the associates, then the union gives them a little bit more they credit that towards their apprenticeship. But I also wanted to mention a little something. Is there anybody, other board members that want to?
So I just want to, I think it's beyond our city limits of Santa Fe, where it's very important that we're educating Hispanic males. I think the bigger issue is as we look into the future, and we know that Hispanics are going to be the majority of population in the United States. We're going to have a minority majority in the country. We've already done it in New Mexico because we're a leader on that. But we know it's coming in the country too. And I really see our community as being able to reverse the trend and figure out how we do it and how we make Hispanic males successful so that the rest of the country can replicate that.
So let's take a look at a historical perspective. Because I was involved in the project at Cathedral Park to bring in a monument there that represents the early Hispanic European settlers. And in that depiction, you will see books. So the formal education as we know it today was brought in by Hispanic population, yes, some 400 years ago. We already had traditional, and the other thing is that, one of the beacons of institutions here for success was St. Michael's College for generations. And many of our leaders, community leaders, you go from bankers to teachers to politicians, they graduated from there, predominantly Hispanic males. So we saw the pendulum swing back a little for whatever reasons, and that's great. That opportunity opened up a little bit more. I think schools like, when Northern was, I think was called Normal School, but also Highlands provided that opportunity for a lot of women. And so when we saw this whole thing even out a little, many of them, then we started to see the trend where more women were coming. And I think a lot of the women were wanting to see better opportunity, whether it be single mothers, whatever it may be, or somebody says, I need my job, I need to get an increase of pay in my job. So we provided that opportunity as well. So one of the other things that I'm seeing that Ernest sees a lot more of the high school students and the younger. Where I'm at, embedded in the Trades and Advanced Technology Center, and when we were running the Accelerate program, we were seeing a lot of men, Hispanic males, coming in for their second, maybe third, possibly fourth chance in life. And so we had to work even harder to convince them. I've had more Hispanic males weep in my office because they're afraid to cross that threshold and make a better life for themselves. And if it's HVAC plumbing, I will say, give me 1 year of your life. Trust me with that. We will try to find the finances. We will try to find some support so you can make it through here. We've had several people graduate that program and become contributing taxpayers to our treasury. So I think that's part of it as well. So we can go on with a bunch of different types. Obviously, we're pretty excited about this, but we really need to see this in a more formal manner and a more coordinated effort, other than, again, the efforts that Dr. Bustamante has really tried out. So
If I may, and I appreciate you coming up here, tenemos una mujer aquí, ¿no? She's gifted, she's strong, she's motivated. I've given you 23 years, and I know my community. I know my schools out there. I have a business for the last 25. I hire them. I put them out there to do landscaping. But you know what? If we don't have more of these guys, you can have all the Camillas you want. But you got to have these guys, and you're going to need a harness, someone with a vision that's going to take our male minorities, not just to step one, but to the finish line. So I'm committed to you. I'm committed to you. And I'm committed to us working together. You do it every day. And I'm proud to be part of this, but I'm just asking you all, please listen and look at that directive of what we really need, because somebody has to harness this to really do what y'all are talking about, and we'll make that change.
So in closing, I came back up because I knew these guys wouldn't boast themselves. These are committed folks, and sincerely pulled up the research showing that if you have support, and as Member Sullivan points out, if there's no sense of family, if there's no sense of gente behind you, you don't know that the community's there to support you. In fact, to the contrary, sometimes you're going back to a community that's going to put you down for getting a degree. Who do you think you are with your piece of paper, I've heard? These are painful conversations, so we need to create that network that supports these guys. I was grateful, actually. I'd asked Yash for the information. We didn't do a formal data request, but it's 13% success rate to 22% of the general pop. That's the difference. And it's a national issue. And here we are in a community where we can create that network. These are the guys committed. All I did was bring forward the concept. Gerard brought another project called MAP that was very similar at another institution. Mostly, it wasn't necessarily with a Hispanic male, there was a minority male, but it was all about the same concept of bringing together a network to support the population, to create a different sense of family, both at the institution and in the community, seeing people that are your brothers. They are absolutely right. This can't be me. They're not going to look to me to get their inspiration on what it takes to succeed, but boy, did the men show up. These are the two who are at the table today. We had a couple others who weren't able to make the photo there because we have the guys from advisement. We have the guys, not advisement, I'm sorry, from the tutoring center, from TRIO. These folks show up. We have the guys from the Veterans, Scargill, who show up to have a conversation about how are we going to get together a network to support these folks. So really what they're asking for today, recognizing that as we're moving forward, and we will put the request in the Title V, recognizing that this is our achievement gap, this is what we're trying to bring support to, but looking for coordination, recognition. As they said, they each have their own buffet. I have to boast their effort. I have to sincerely boast their commitment because they show up and I know that this population matters to them. So I want to thank you. If there isn't anything else or any questions for me, but I open it up to you all, and I want to give them their time to share with you the good work that they have been doing. So thank you.
I just wanted to add one comment before you leave, and thank you for your presentation and your efforts. Having a recently graduated high school student in my family who comes from a Hispanic family and has looked at community college and other options and employment options. My personal experience has been that who they, and this is a male student, graduate, whose opinion they value most is the opinion of their friends. It's the opinion of their contemporaries. It's by word of mouth. It's someone who's an age-related role model. It's a close friend. And if my friend so-and-so thinks it's a good idea to go to Santa Fe Community College, yeah, I'm going to do it too, and vice versa. So, and I mention that because that seems to take precedence over web pages, over promotional events that and campus introduction events that we have and are very successful, that seems to take precedence. And so I'm hoping that what we can think about is when someone comes in, and however they get here, and showing an interest, the first question I would ask them is, do you have a friend that's interested in this too? And if they say, well, yeah, I've been talking to so-and-so, we're on the bowling team together, or, we play softball together, would you bring him in here? Or if you bring him in here, I'm going to give you both some information that you're going to be excited about. And you can do this together. You and your friend can go in this, whatever its program, whether it's welding, whether it's nursing, whatever the program, you and your friend can do this together because they want to stay together. Once you get out of high school, you lose all your friends. Everybody that you were in classes with, in clubs with, on sports teams with, you lose them. They're all gone. What are you going to do? You're without direction. You're without a compass. And you folks are trying to give them that compass. But what I'm saying is that the first person they look to before their parents, they're old, they don't know much, and is their friends. So if we can make an effort to bring friends in as a consortium together and say, you two are going to go through this together. You're both going to get out of here in 1 year with a certificate. You're both going to make $65,000 a year, whatever it is. You're going to be successful. We are going to be successful, I think.
Jack, can I tell you something? My grandson's graduating this spring. He got a certificate. Now he's getting a degree welding. Okay? Two of my grandsons just graduated.
He's already gotten his AAS in December. Now he's getting his certificate and
It's reversed. What does the grandpa know? What I do know is, by having Gerard, my grandson said the other day, hey, Grandpa, can I be student speaker at graduation? One of those guys up there? And I said, Ito, what are you talking about really? He goes, no, I want to be one of those speakers. And so I get this call. I say, well, we need some student speakers. Gerard empowered him to be one of these students, right? And Gerard and I had this conversation today. My granddaughter graduated last fall with her degree. So I have a 22-year-old and a 20-year-old and myself. And I've had my daughter-in-law. And eventually the rest will come. It's the mentoring and modeling, because I do get kids that weren't part of clubs, weren't part of groups. What I will tell you is when they get a hold of us, now they have 2, 3 more friends after we get done with them coming to our door.
Great.
I want to close because there was a couple of misses in terms of, we got the IME RFP, because we got our undocumented students. There's a ton of those kids that I work with, that you all are amazing. I have a gathering of leaders this Friday that I'd love to invite you all from 10 to 1:30. I have about 100, 125 of my students, leaders from this college, talking to possibly the superintendent. I have the mayor coming, I have some deans, I have some principals, to hear from our students how they see education. So you're more than welcome to come to the Hennis rooms and anybody out here from 10 to 1:30. And I'm even providing lunch, imagine that. Lastly, I have my student ambassador about 20 years. These are the kids that nobody thought about, that were hidden behind the scenes. These are what represents the college. I have about 150 to 200 people having dinner Thursday night. Okay. And so I want to invite you all. If you want to come and see Familia and see our kiddos that really have been successful, that didn't have a shot, please come from 5 to 9 down in front of my office down in the atrium. I also will close with our students made phone calls to over 100 or 200 of these kids. And when our students were calling those students that we were looking at to follow up, right, Camilla and Gerard, all they wanted was, how are you guys doing? Well, who is this? We just want to know you're doing okay. We're going for a community college. I'm one of you. Those students said, I'm doing okay. Or, you know what? Can you tell me more? And so by what we're doing here is utilizing our students to be the role models for those other students. So I want to, again, thank Camilla for your leadership and what you do to help Gerard and I really take the lead with the rest of us.
And I wanted to follow up with Mr. Sullivan's remarks. When we do get buddies in my office,
they succeed. But the other part of this, you're right, because that's part of the idea of the program, is that when we get people here on this campus, and we start to gather them together, they will start to see each other, and they'll start to relate, and then they know they will be able to succeed. So again, where we start to see it, yes, in the welding program, it's obvious, greenhouse, and we see it in the HVAC and plumbing. They become their own cohort, and because they get to see each other. I'll have a 55-year-old man willing to give up 20 years of waiting tables just so he can improve his life to try to get an AAS in the HVAC and plumbing. But I tell him, you're not going to be alone. So when he goes in those classrooms, he sees that he's not the only one the same age and same situation. So any way we can do the budding, you are correct. Whether it be them actually walking in, or we bring them into that informal setting in the gathering when they first get onto campus.
Well, clearly, you all are doing remarkable work. And certainly, we on the board, I know all of us, recognize that. And more than that, we hope that we can contribute in some ways. Of course, faculty, staff are doing other things on the campus. And we hope as a board that we can also do some of those things. One of those things that we're currently looking at is trying to open the doors wide open to the community college through a college promise program and eliminate tuition completely. Because we know there are still 40% of the graduates from the local high schools do not go on to do anything. Or I shouldn't say that. They do not go on to any other education, any other formal education. And
thank you for your leadership of Dr. Cervantes. Dr. Cervantes models, I know she's female, pero la gente, they see her. And having the gente up there with you all reflects that there is diversity, like Martha, that diversity is a critical component to your expertise and their expertise to make us a better community. So thank you.
De nada, gracias a ustedes.
Thank you, thank you.
Hey, we Irish are diverse too.
Yes, we are.
My grandfather was Irish.
Yes, yes.
Okay, enrollment report now.
Okay, Chair Siegel, board members, President Cervantes, we are here to present the enrollment report. You will see from the information that was supplied to you that we are 5.10% down in head count and 7.93% down in FTE and credit hours. Our courses are down 44 courses, that's 4.4%. In head count, that is 292 students to be specific. Marcos and Todd are here with some updates as well, but I'm also happy to answer any questions you all have.
let me just ask a simple question. Usually we read from left to right. These charts have us reading from right to left, so that we start with spring semester 2019, and then we go to spring semester 2018. And then we have some change that we have to,
Sure.
Yeah.
Would you rather see those two columns?
Well, yeah, I just wonder about, was there a reason for them like this?
I think the reason is that the focus is on the spring semester of 2019, which is what we're in now. And so that's why you have that first column, because you do read from left to right. So it's like, this is what we have now, this is what it was a year ago, and this is the difference. Right. Rather than this is what it was then, this is what it, but we can switch that. I certainly can see why that might make more sense to you.
I find myself a number of times
Sure.
looking at these charts and going,
wait a minute,
okay,
let me
this
see.
was,
What am I looking
this
at
was
here?
last year. This is, no, it's not.
Yeah.
That was this year and this last
Sure.
year. Okay.
That is an easy thing to do, Board
Okay,
Member Gamble.
I would appreciate that.
And I'd be delighted to take care of that. Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Just a quick question about summer registration. So will you remind us of dates and what is that looking like in terms of registration?
Summer registration has begun, fall registration has begun. The numbers are, it is so early, that's why you haven't seen numbers in your packet, because I think you all remember when we've given them to you this early before, they're pretty shockingly poor, and so it's too early for us to present that to you, but registration is happening and ongoing. Yes. Thanks. So Marcos, do you want to?
Thank you very much, Vice President Peters, Madam Chair, members of the board. So just one of the big activities that our office is very proud to report on to you all is our Ticket to College workshops. So just to remind you all, those are the workshops where we actually go to the high schools, and that is Capitol High School, Santa Fe High School, and our newest partner, Early College Opportunities High School, also known as ECO. We actually have staff from SFCC that goes to these high school campuses, and they provide them with the AccuPlacer exam, FAFSA workshops, so students can actually do their FAFSA right there on campus. And those are two of the most daunting tasks that any student has regarding getting into college. Now, what we are doing on top of getting these students to complete their AccuPlacer and their FAFSA is now we want to take that a step further. And we're still in the baby steps of this, but I requested a data request report to be run regarding about 100 of these students that have done the AccuPlacer test. And out of these 100 students, very, very low number of them actually tested into college level math, for example. Actually, out of those 100 students that I ran the survey on, only 3 total from Capitol High School and Santa Fe High School, and these are seniors, are at a college level in math. About 15 total are about at college level English. Now, while that sounds like a negative, and it is, we are confident that we can turn this into a positive. And just again, it's just in its infancy, and I hope that as we are coming here in the next couple of months, we can report more on this. But just a big thing that we are advocates of are also looking at other measures, multiple measures of success. And that is looking at a high school student's transcript. That is looking at their grade point average. That is looking at how well they are performing in their high school level math and English classes. Because we know that some students just do not test well. But we know that a lot of these students are good students. Most of them are good students. And we're hoping to see what we can do, maybe use this group of students as like a pilot with multiple measures to see if we can get them sped up and taking other classes. But that is just in the baby steps right now. But we are all strong advocates for that. And you want to talk about boosting numbers for enrollment. You want to talk about actually having students stay and succeed and want to come to school. In my humble opinion, that is a big way to do that. Also, if we're talking Hispanic students, one cool thing that we want to report on is that currently for the spring 2019 semester, we have SFCC 56% of our Hispanic students, degree-seeking Hispanic students, we have right now currently at SFCC, in comparison to Santa Fe County being 54% Hispanic folks. Also, I want to report that here at SFCC for spring 2019, 5% of our degree-seeking students are Native American, in comparison to 2% of people living in Santa Fe County are Native American. So I know that we're having the battle against low enrollment, and we will continue to fight that battle semester after semester after semester, but I do think it is very important that we also champion and share our successes that we are doing out in the community. Passing this over to Todd, Madam Chair.
I feel like I'd like to let Marcos just end there.
I have a question. So last fall, how many students did we admit from the Santa Fe schools?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So looking at those numbers, are we just talking high school students that matriculated into Santa Fe Community College? 40%.
No, tell me a number.
A number. I'll have to look at
100 students, 200 students?
Oh, yeah, well over. I think it's over. If I had to make a rough guess right now, just based on memory, Madam Chair, I would say we have close to 300.
300 students who graduated from Santa Fe
Matriculated
Capital
right to SFCC.
or some other charter school.
Santa Fe Public Schools.
300-ish.
And that's the highest total head count that we've had in over 5 years, Madam Chair.
And do you have any idea how many of them had bridge scholarships and then lottery scholarships?
I don't have that information, Madam Chair, but I'm more than happy to touch base with our financial aid office, and I'm happy to get that information to you for the next board meeting.
I think that kind of information is really helpful, particularly in thinking about college promise. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Martha?
Just a comment. I'm really glad to see that you're using multiple measures and that you're testing that as a possibility. Across the nation, I think we have all discovered that the AccuPlacer is an inadequate test, and that many students who don't do well on the AccuPlacer and therefore cannot take college-level courses get discouraged and quit. So the multiple measures element is really important, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, Board Member Romero.
Comments? Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Now we have the Faculty Senate report.
President Cervantes, Chair Siegel, members of the board. First, I want to say that the faculty were very honored to honor John Ledoux this past week. He's very, very highly regarded by his colleagues, loved by his students, and treasured by our community, and we miss him a great deal. Things we're working on, the Faculty Senate formed a committee to help facilitate the new general education requirements. It'll be a committee that has similar responsibilities to some of our other committees, but we feel that over the first year of transition to the new general education requirements, there's going to be a great deal of work and a lot of need for support and mentorship to help everybody who is interested in qualifying their classes as general education. And we want to have big thanks to VP Margaret Peters for working with us to arrange for at least the beginning of this process to get adequate ATA for the members of the committee for what will be a very big task and take a lot of pressure off our curriculum committee and our assessment committee during this initial period of a great deal of change and work. We had a presentation on onboarding from Charlie Schultz, who you saw in the greenhouse today, and we're spectacularly happy to have Charlie here. He's super well renowned within his field, but he was went to the Achieving the Dream conference this year, and what he brought back was a presentation about faculty onboarding. And what he presented to us was a model that he got at one of the classes that talked about Austin Community College, who not only has a faculty onboarding of what you should expect in your first year, but then a pathway all the way through to retirement where those who are mentored in their first 2 years are then in their fourth year expected to be the mentors coming back. And so it's a give and take. It's things you should expect in terms of helping you to along in your progress at the college, but also things that will be expected of you as you move through and mature within the college structure. So we have that model, and we think it's really excellent. And I know it's a very different community college with a very different culture, but it's a model that we think is worth looking at farther. Charlie did at the end was a little bewildered as to how he was selected to go. The Faculty Senate agreed that while we're okay, we don't need to select everybody that goes to every conference, but we thought that it may be that when we send people to a conference like that, there's a more structured way that that information gets reported back. And so we have in the past, when people have gone, found out who the people are, invited them back to come to Faculty Senate and report on what they learned. But it's not a very structured process. And with the expense that we take to send someone to a conference like that, we would hope that we could encourage and support a better feedback and more of an obligation, not that people randomly tell us, but there is an expectation they would come and report back to their colleagues, and perhaps even before they go, talk to us about what kind of things that we would like to see them pursue and look at there. That's a conversation we can address more in the future. We had also a report from one of our adjunct faculty, Sydney Scher, and we're sad that Sydney's going to be leaving the campus. She was brought in here to help build the jewelry program, and while she was replacing a full-time faculty member in the jewelry program, she's been operating as the lead faculty member for jewelry, and now has determined, after a couple of years here, that this was too expensive of a job for her, and she was offered a position at another college. But in our jewelry department, we have high enrollments and plenty of course offerings that we could have a full-time position there. But because of the lack of any kind of a clear plan where she could anticipate that she would be moved to full-time, that and it's also a question about, she as an adjunct, she's the lead faculty getting ATA, but never really able to get a full-time job with benefits because of the way that we've structured that. She wanted to stay. She loves our program. She's although her new college would like her to come immediately, she is determined to stay through the summer to help complete the process she started with building the program here. A number of faculty mentioned about their course and lab fees still going to general fund, and I know that we've heard many times that more money goes to the programs than ever comes out of lab fees, but we can demonstrate that that's not always true, that sometimes lab fees. And so we're wondering, if we're going to charge students in some programs fees and not in other programs, why wouldn't that naturally go to helping to fund those programs? If not, is it just an arbitrary charge to students? And if so, then maybe we should eliminate them. But if we are going to charge for lab fees and course fees, we'd like to look into in the future whether those fees could be directly allocated back to the departments that they're allocated from. I sent out a copy of a resolution that the faculty addressed this past Friday about, we saw the salary schedules were on the agenda. And we're concerned, not only I see that the full-time faculty schedule has been taken off the agenda, but in policy 436, it's very clear that all the salary schedules are supposed to be vetted through shared governance. And at this point, I don't believe any of the salary schedules have gone through the shared governance process. So I'm hoping that while there will be a discussion, that we will follow policy and send those through. And I know Faculty Senate only has one more meeting this semester, so we're getting close to the end if that is the process we're going to follow. We have in the past had our faculty marshals have been the chair and vice chair of the Faculty Senate. We decided this year we want to change it up and honor faculty members, and we put out a call to the whole faculty community for people that they would like to see honored. And while John Ledoux was on the top of the list, his physical condition may make it difficult for him to fulfill that marshal role, but we will be sending Sydney Scher and Marcy Iarino as our faculty marshals this year. And I can stand for questions if there are any.
Questions?
I have one comment on your resolution about course cancellations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that I hope that you will really look at what happens to a student when a course is canceled and they enter another course a week late.
Mm-hmm.
These are often students that really need to be there from the very start.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that you are thinking about some way of mitigating for that.
Mm-hmm. I do know that it's common practice at a lot of other colleges to go through that. I guess what we're concerned about is when we're in a position where we're trying to manage enrollments, and many times some of our students are showing up expecting they can come to the first day of classes, and then their classes have already been canceled. And I'm not suggesting there is one perfect way. What the Senate is asking is that we look into this and try to come up with what we think is a best practice across the board. I know many times we have canceled classes, recreated them as independent studies, which is a substantial amount of work, and then enough students sign up and we have to cancel it again and reschedule it as a regular class once we have a full course load in there. So, and that's just a lot of unnecessary labor. Maybe that's a banner problem, that's the way it works, that we have to cancel classes and kick students out in the middle of that process. But we're not tied to one result, but we would like to see a process by which we have a broader conversation about how we're doing class cancellations, because it feels awkward, and I don't think it's really, what we're doing right now is not best for students. I do want to thank VP Peters. One thing that she immediately in response did was change the date at which people who are out of state, out of district can so they now are allowed to enroll in classes before the cancellation date. And I think that's one really big step forward, but I think it's something we should look at more and try to come up with. Again, the Faculty Senate doesn't have all the solutions, but we certainly would like to be a part of a conversation.
That's good. Thank you.
Kathy?
Madam Chair, just a quick question, Zuby. So in your minutes of the March 14th meeting, when you had a discussion around Professional Development Day, I see that the Faculty Senate brought up some concerns about input into the plenary speaker.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how that came about? And maybe it's a question for President Cervantes too, what our process is for doing planning around Professional Development Days.
Sure.
Well, it's generally, that is something that is done through HR, and so we're often asked if we want to have, but we've been talking for a couple of years about our interest in being more involved in the, I know I've mentioned this before, we used to have a faculty professional development day that we had a budget for and scheduled a whole series of workshops in a whole day. A few years ago, it was determined that we would have just a professional development day for everyone on campus, and it's a little less targeted towards what faculty value as professional development. I'm not saying we necessarily have to go back to the old way, but we would like more of a role in determining who the plenary, what the focus of the main event is, not just about the afternoon workshops.
Yes, I can talk, board members, Keith, about the plenary speaker, how that process evolved. We talked about it at executive team meeting, and the topic was best practices in community colleges, and there were some individuals on executive team that worked in conjunction with Terrence Donaldson and HR to come up with a speaker who could provide us with good information on that topic. And actually, the individual who used to be an engineer and now does training on how you can motivate students, how you can motivate yourselves. She was outstanding. We had fabulous feedback, and faculty, staff, everyone who was there just gave her very high marks. So we were very pleased, and that was a collaborative process in terms of providing feedback to HR on the selection.
But we're not saying that we didn't like who was chosen. We would just, through some formal process, have a broader role in helping to set that agenda of who is going to be and how that topic is chosen, how that person is chosen.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
Zuby. Staff Senate.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Interim President Cervantes. Staff Senate is meeting as usual. I'm sorry we don't have minutes for you. We want to thank the administration and the governing board for the support in the budget process for salary improvements, both the potential 4% raise as well as any positive changes that come out of the comp and class study implementation that should happen later this year. We are in the process of reviewing our bylaws and constitution, and that will take a little bit. If there are constitutional changes, those will come to you. We are preparing for elections, which will happen this next month. The co-chair, second position, my position, and the secretary-treasurer is up for re-election. We try to alternate. And then also, we are preparing for Staff Appreciation Day, which will happen sometime late May, early June, an event that we hold every year. In addition to that, we had one issue come up in the Staff Senate meeting last week, and I have a prepared statement. This is an issue that was brought to us by several staff members. One of the most widely used documents on campus is the PAN, or Personnel Action Notice. These documents require many verification and authorizations from across campus. PANs are required for all employee transactions, including new hires, transfers, title changes, terminations, stipends, salary changes, reclassifications, FOP changes, just literally to name a few. At any given time, there are many of these PANs working their way around campus, and because of the paper nature of the current PAN, they tend to get buried on people's desks and they're difficult to track down. In June of 2018, a group of staff began to create an intranet online form that would replace the paper version. The intranet form would ensure visibility into the workflow, electronic signature path, and enable employees to identify the stage at which the PAN was at any point. In other words, it's electronically on someone's desk, and you know who that person is. The process of creation was part of a formal OIT project with a charter. The creation of a viable intranet-based form was complex, and it involved staff from OIT, the finance office, payroll, and human resources. These new forms were completed and tested and ready to go in August of 2018, and the new intranet was rolled out actually in October of that year. Unfortunately, to date, the forms have not been rolled out. The project team has asked for a timeline for implementation in several venues with no specific response, including executive team and governance council meetings. Several members of the team presented this information to Staff Senate last week. Given that many staff members are very invested in this new technology, we are wondering what it will take to roll out the intranet form. We are specifically requesting approval and a timeline to proceed with that implementation. And we would appreciate some assistance from the board to move this important project forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will stand for questions.
Do you have an update on that, Madam President?
Well, I had heard about this just recently, and I don't know if Terrence in HR has an update, because I know that HR was working on it.
Uh-huh. Sounds logical.
Yeah,
No more paper.
right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The board, Madam President, is it on? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, in reference to this project, as we looked to roll it out, we found that it wasn't quite ready. There were some issues with the electronic PAN that we had to work through before rolling it out. Otherwise, it would have been rolling it out and having multiple issues, pulling it back. So we went in to do additional testing and additional tweaks to the actual form. As we got closer and closer to resolution, we had a change on my particular team, my staff. The person that was responsible for making the changes, updating that form, left the team. So currently at this point, we're in the process of hiring a replacement for our HRIS analyst position.
So when that person is hired, then are you going to move forward with it?
Yes, absolutely, we are.
And I think I'd like to say that the Staff Senate position from a number of staff members is that there are many people who would be happy to support that testing and process. This is a form that involves finance, payroll, and OIT in addition to HR, and I think that we would be happy to provide the support. Whether or not Terrence has that person on the team, there are others who are really eager to roll this out. We'd be happy to help.
I think it's important to note that as it relates to that particular form, where input had been received by those other entities, it was the HR portion that was missing. And therein lies the issues. So whereas it was helpful, we really need to focus on those tweaks from the human resources perspective in order for it to roll out and be effective for our customers.
And you'll stay
And
on
we'll-
top of that.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you, members of the board.
Thank you.
All right, so approval of the consent agenda with the March 27th minutes removed. Is there a motion? Hello?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Now let's go to those items removed from the consent agenda. The regular minutes of March 27th. Martha, you had a change?
Yeah, on CB, I'm sorry, C8, page C8, there's a report, an update, and it's bullet number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The PSAC, which was the Academic Search Committee, is thanked above. The thank you on that particular bullet should be to the Academic Search Organization, which is the group of consultants who worked with us. So I think I just wanted to correct that. So with that correction, I would move approval.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair.
Yeah, you have discussion?
Yeah, discussion.
So Kathy has a second. You have discussion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand it. Bullet 5 says, thank the Academic Search Committee, who did an amazing job in the recruitment efforts. And is there something you wanted to add to?
No, I want to change committee to organization. Academic Search is the company that worked with us. The Academic Search Committee is the PSAC that was thanked first.
They were thanked.
Presidential Search Advisory Committee, PSAC, second line of the first bullet.
Oh, thanked all involved. I see 19 members. And so academic search, you wanted to thank the consultant.
For their work in helping us. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're on for our budget, financials, all of that.
All those things.
We did get through some of this in our work session, but want to give us the high-level financial report for March?
Yes. Madam Chair, board members, President Cervantes, we have in front of you the financial report as of the end of March 31st, 2019. And at the end of March, you will see that our operating bank account had a cash balance of 11.3 million compared to 6.7 in the prior year. This is a year-to-year cash improvement of 4.6 million. Tuition and fees revenues down 9%, totaling out to be 6.7 million, and that's a decrease of 645,000. Local appropriations, that's mill levy revenue, is totaling out to be 13.4 million at the end of March, and that's up 11% or 1.3 million. State appropriations revenue is, totaled 7.6 million and is an increase of 5%, and that's an increase of 382,000 to the prior year. In total, if you look at the increases in local mill appropriation and state appropriations and the decrease in tuition and fee, in total ING revenues are up 918,000, and that's 3%, and total 27.8 million, and that is in
our instruction in general fund. And if you look at the ING expenses, they are down 220,000, and that's down 1%, in total out to be about 24 million when compared to last March. Compensation makes up some of the expenses, and in total, compensation's down by 2%, or 391,000, totaling out to be 18.3 million. Looking at supplies expense, equipment, utilities, expenses are up just slightly by 170,000 compared to the prior year. If you look at public service, our public service fund has a net income or net gain of 81,000, and of course that is in the areas of the conference center, kids campus, HEC, in those areas of the budget. Together they're all in the positive, which is a good thing. Looking at our auxiliary fund, which is the food service and bookstore, together combined we have a total net gain of $4,200, and that's substantially lower than the prior year. And as we talked about earlier, we'll be paying close attention to that fund, because that is a fund that by regulation is required to be self-sustaining. In terms of our grants, accounts receivable, we are looking pretty good there. We have about $1 million outstanding in grants receivables, and that's a pretty good level in AR grants. You know, we don't like to see it get above about 1.5 million, so that's doing good there. With that, that's a high-level summary of our March financial report, and I can stand for any questions that you might have.
Questions for Nick? Nope.
Okay.
I guess that was thorough.
Thorough
All right.
enough?
All right, do we have a motion?
So move.
As the chair would say, hello.
I so move.
We have a motion. And a second. Discussion? We're approving the financials of March 2019. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the approval of the state budget adjustment request, the bar number 2 for fiscal year 19.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, board members, President Cervantes, if you could turn to your budget books, you should be able to locate, what is it, tab exhibit EX1-2 in the budget books. And there you will see, we reviewed this in our earlier meeting a little bit. That is an exhibit report that is required to be turned into the New Mexico Higher Education Department, and I'll turn it over to Amy Tilley to go ahead and walk us through this.
Good evening. I know we've actually talked extensively about this already, but what you do have in front of you is what we're going to do, what we're proposing for the adjustment to the final adjustment to the fiscal year 19 budget. And the reason for these adjustments is to reflect what is the current status of revenues and expenditures. And so you have seen on there that the revenues were adjusted accordingly based on tuition and fees lowering and the general appropriation increasing. And then you saw one slight adjustment for expenditures in the area of POM. And
Yes.
that essentially covers everything on the bar. Any questions?
It might be useful for the,
Okay.
for the video, if that page were arrayed.
While we're waiting for that, I think that I could just also point out to you, there is in the bar number 2 column towards the bottom of the page, under the subheader transfers in and out, you will see there bar 2 is planning an additional transfer of $1.14 million to our cash reserves of the college. And so for the end of the year, our total transfers into cash reserves will total out to be $3,587,212. And that's going to help us have pretty substantial improvement in the area that we've really focused on in our budgeting and strategic sort of planning in order to make sure that we're getting close to that 3 months payroll. And so with that, we'll talk about that a little bit later in the meeting. So here's Amy for you.
So on the screen, what you're seeing is maybe at the top of the form, this is the Exhibit 2, this is the ING component, and it's showing those changes that we had in revenues for both tuition and fees, and also local appropriation, along with the slight changes that we had in sales and services. If you scroll down just a little bit more, Mason, you will also see the changes that we've had there, just the one change that we have in expenditures, and that is just in Exhibit 14. And if you scroll down a little bit more, Mason, these are where your transfers, and we're looking at the columns that are in orange. The blue columns are the actual budget for fiscal year 20, which we'll come back to here in a little bit. In the orange, you are seeing the numbers change in size. Not amount, just in size. Go down a little bit more to the transfers. On the transfers, we do have that adjustment on the ING side for Exhibit 19, which is financial aid, and that's due to the institutional scholarships for dual credit. And then that is the next line down you see is capital outlay, and that is the part we're most excited about, and that is the movement of $3.4 million into cash reserves that was desperately needed in this institution, so that we do not have the valley of death any longer, and that we're building those reserves back to what the necessary amounts are for us to carry on throughout the year without any interruption to vendor payments, et cetera. You're also seeing a slight adjustment down for the transfer from the technology fee, and that is simply due to the lowering enrollment numbers. And that takes care of ING. Mason, if you want to go to the first tab, which is Exhibit 1. As you guys all know, I know you love this. Oh, the first tab, one more on the bottom of the sheet. Yep. I know you guys love this document. It's so much fun. So as you guys know, ING wraps up into Exhibit 1 and comes in as its own line item in there as a summary item. As far as revenues go for the non-ING elements, once again, you're seeing student and social decreasing slightly, and that's due to the enrollment changes. And that is about it on that one. So if you want to scroll down a little bit lower, Mason. We already dealt with the adjustments to the beginning balance. We did that during bar 1. Scroll down a little bit more, Mason. Thank you. And now you're into expenditures, and on the expenditure side, you're seeing the adjustments to reflect a bit of an increase for public service, and that is dealing with both a combination of institutional public service and also what SBDC has going on in their operations. And then at the very bottom, you see the transfers. The big thing you always look for in transfers is they should total out to 0, because transfers go from here to there. They can't have anything left over. And so they do total out to 0. And that is essentially what we have changed, the changes for our unrestricted bar. We will also talk briefly about our restricted bar in 2 seconds. Any questions on this one?
Could you just review for us the $1.5 million in public service, that adjustment?
That is primarily in SBDC, and that is to reflect the spending of the for their planning purposes, they usually spend their beginning fund balance in their budget to allow enough room for them to do anything that they are needing to do throughout the year.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear all that.
Okay. So on SBDC, they had a beginning. SBDC, I'm sorry, Small Business Development Corporation.
Okay.
They have, they have a beginning balance of 1.5 million essentially. And what they're doing on here is they're actually planning on spending that beginning balance. And so this is the bar to adjust to allow them to spend their beginning balance.
Okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to point out a couple things here, if I may. When you are asked, what is the budget of SFCC, you know, that's kind of a little bit of a challenge to answer. Of course, you have the revenue budget, which is one thing. But if somebody were to ask me that, I would look at the expenditure budget. And with the expenditure budget, you see up there on the screen, we have about $34.4 million in our instruction and general fund. So that's the area that really is the center of everything in our budget. Adding in all of the current funds, the total of ING and public service and so on and so forth, you'll see current funds total out to be $44 million for the end of FY19. And then, of course, you could add in the capital outlay fund. And these are all discrete funds that have really specific uses. And so in total, when you look at all of those different areas of our budget, the entire budget's about $52 million. So if you're ever asked that question, it can be, depending on what you're looking at, it can be a lot of different things, but in total, it is 52 million approximately, and the ING budget there is 34.4 million.
Okay. Are we done with the bar?
I am.
Done? Any questions about the bar?
Yeah. This is the unrestricted bar, and then we still have the
Right.
restricted bar to talk about. too.
Right, but this is one bar we have to approve.
Yes, and we have
If
to
you could-
approve both of them.
If you could do both of them.
You want to do both of them?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, okay.
Want to finish one before we do the other?
I guess we're going to vote on them together.
They came in the packet as one.
Okay, then we'll vote on them together.
Okay.
So go
So
ahead.
that
and-
deals with the unrestricted. Any further questions? So on the restricted one, which is located in your budget book under the tab that says bar, that is the restricted budget, and that is simply dealing with the restricted funds, which are grants, and adjusting based on their current expenditures and revenues. What they get in is what they spend, and so that is just to update it to reflect what happened currently in this year. Any
So we
questions?
don't have any say on this. This is just, the grants come in and we spend them like we're supposed to.
That's correct. Some of these grants are multi-year grants that we've entered into contracts for, so, you know, we're just budgeting the current year portion for FY19 and basically updating this restricted budget.
Okay, any questions on the restricted bar?
Chair, just a quick question under student financial aid. So our original budget was 8.2 million. We're decreasing it by $1 million for a total of 7.2. Is that based on enrollment, or are students actually using less financial aid?
It's going to be a combination of both, because those dollars there are for the Pell Grants, and those are the restricted funds. Those are not the institutional funds. Those are the restricted funds that are coming as a result of the FAFSA forms. And so it's basically, it's a combination of lower enrollment. It's also maybe they're qualifying less on their FAFSA forms, or they're applying for less on the FAFSA forms too, because student loans would also be incorporated in that.
Other questions?
I move approval of both bars.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
now we are on to tuition and fees, which are On which page?
Donna, do you have that page? I don't have the exact.
E15.
Is it in the
This is in the regular book.
It's in the regular book, and
E15?
Okay.
And on your agenda form, you'll see the breakdown really of what we're recommending. Ultimately, we're recommending that there not be, to be careful, that there is no increase to in-state, in-district tuition, in-state, out-of-district tuition, out-of-state tuition as well. Now, and then there's, for senior citizens, we're going to have a $5 credit hour, but per the recent legislative change, senior citizens will be able to take up to 10 credit hours. And so we're recommending that tuition does not change, and then also our mandatory fees, our service fee of $7 a credit hour, our SGA student activity fee of $1.50 per credit hour, and also our tech fee of $2 per credit hour remain the same.
So everything is remaining the same except the change in the law related to New Mexico residents over the age of 62, is it?
I don't have the exact.
Or 65?
We might be able to find it here real quick.
But, okay, and when we discussed this law change a couple of meetings ago, we talked about 65, how we're going to address actually following the procedure that the law has laid out, which means you cannot register for these classes if you are 65 until it is determined that the classes are not full of regularly paying students. Is that the policy? That is
that's
how
what
the
we-
law has laid it out. But that is not how the school has done this. Is that correct? Can someone address this?
Madam Chair, members of the board, yes, that is correct. So the way it's worked, the way the legislation stipulates is that in order to receive that lower tuition rate, it's whatever that's left over after the classes make, not before.
Right.
However, in the past, we haven't been doing that as diligently as we could, and that is something that we might want to consider in the future.
Oh,
Administratively, is it possible to do it? I mean, since people are registering online, you keep track of the age of the people who are registering?
Madam Chair, as members of the board, board member Gamble, yes, it is possible. However, there's some technological items that we might want to look at. What has happened in the past is people would have registered before the deadline, before when they should be registering, paying the full tuition, once the class making, disenrolling, and then re-registering.
okay.
So-
Margaret, did you want to come up and say anything? Okay.
Yeah, you can come.
Well, I believe you were going to bring us some kind of proposal about how we were going to address this, because this could interfere with academic classes that our degree-seeking students need.
Absolutely. And so we will be working to put things in place to hopefully make sure that those students, that it follows the law that they, or the statute that they actually register after everyone else. I mean, we have attempted to do that in the past, but there are workarounds, unfortunately, that there are loopholes that folks find. And so what we have to work on is closing up those loopholes. It is a challenge, I'm not going to lie to you. It's a little hard to figure out how we're going to be able to close all of those, but that is certainly something that we're working on, and we can bring a plan for you so that
That
you
would
can-
be, I think
yeah.
we should hear that, because
Absolutely.
we will get calls.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But we do have the priority of our are degree-seeking
We do.
students, and
Absolutely.
if there are classes that.
That's right. And it's a real concern. I mean, it's been a concern always, but now with this raise in the number of credit hours
Yeah.
they can take, it's a real legitimate.
Like we only
ongoing
have so
concern.
many slots
That's
for
right.
certain
Yes.
degree programs, right? Okay, so we should have this before well, there's already registration for the fall semester,
Yes,
right? So
there is.
what would be your time frame for this?
What we can bring something, a plan to you at the next board meeting if you'd like. Mhm.
So, Madam Chair, should we approve this?
Yeah.
Given that it doesn't have the right language in it? Or should we add the language?
I don't think it's that we don't have the right language, we're just saying what, the language here doesn't address the law, it just says $5.
I just hear you saying you're interested in how we're going to enforce.
Yes, how are we gonna
enforce it?
correctly implement
Yes.
this new law? So I don't think we need to worry about the language on this document, because the law is the law. The law says you can't register until after the class has closed.
Okay.
The law also says that it's $5 per credit.
Right, after
But
the class is closed.
I'm not sure that we can keep a student from registering as a regular, full-paying student, regardless of their age.
Well, that's true.
So
Yeah.
this is the problem that we're encountering, that we have folks who are registering as a regular, full-paying student.
That aren't
They are
necessarily
reserving a spot
degree-seeking.
for themselves. And then when the time comes, they drop that registration and they then register again as the $5 credit hour. Yeah.
You'll have to figure that out.
Yes,
won't you?
absolutely, but yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah.
So.
Madam Chair.
A student who's degree seeking, or they brought that to re-register, then a student who's degree seeking.
Could get in there. Yeah, it's certainly, yes.
Yeah, okay. Jack?
I'm wondering if you register and if online and the computer knows what your age is, then, which they do if you've previously registered. They don't necessarily if you have not registered before, by the way.
Isn't your birthday a requirement
Not
in
to,
the system?
no, not to register.
Yeah.
Is it? You sure? Okay, I stand corrected. How does the individual know if or when the class is closed? How does the individual know? First of all, I assume the individual registered online gets a computer thing back saying, sorry, we can't register you because you're over 65, and we'll let you know if the class, if you can register for the class.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It all depends on the circumstances. I'm not sure we can say we can't register you because you're over 65. That's discriminatory.
No, it's
so
about the credits.
It has to do with the $5 a credit hour issue. We can uphold that. But a student who's 65 or older can register. They can register as a regular student, not as a, they can register as a full price, full paying student.
But when
Is there a way to do a?
when you register, the online registration immediately gives you your fee. You immediately go to the
Right.
fee, and if you're a senior, it says $5 a credit hour.
But I
So
don't-
how do you do that?
That's what we can make an adjustment to, so that that doesn't show up until after the deadline. And that's something currently that we.
So then does the student know that he or she is registered for that class, even though maybe you would have more credit students or more under 65 students who registered, and then that student would be kicked out?
I think this is what you have to figure out and tell us.
It would make more sense to be a provision, to say this is a provisional registration
Right.
until the class, registration says, you can figure that.
Right.
No, I don't think our registration form is very user-friendly. And also there's some classes, such as strength training for seniors.
I don't think any under 65 are gonna sign up for that.
I don't know,
One
but,
of the things
but,
the system can do, because my former background here at the college at once upon a time, I was in the enrollment center. And so the system does have it set that where you can turn the registration rate on at a certain time frame. And so the senior citizen rate would not turn on until the deadline came on. So if they registered previously, they would pay the full price rate, not the $5 rate. And so that class would then be considered full. But the problem is if that person drops the class at that point, then there now is an opening, and the senior rate is also on at this point, and they go register after, and they get a refund, because during the drop period, you can add and drop as much as you want, because we want to allow the students as much flexibility as we possibly can have, without any penalty. And so what they do is they drop that one, they get back their full price, and now they register with the senior rate, which is now turned on. And so that's how that is tying together. So you do have the flexibility in the system to turn that rate on at a certain date. Prior to that date, they would just pay the full rate. And then the system has already flagged those folks who have met the criteria as a senior to have that attribute on them. And then when that attribute timeline turns on, then the rate would change if there are new registration. It does not go retroactive to previous registration.
is that date published?
Yeah, it has, it's the drop deadline date, or it's part of the calendar. So yes, it's part of the student
So
calendar.
your other alternative is just simply to wait, so you don't register on April 24th, you just wait to whatever the drop time is, and then you register.
Problem is then the class may be, for those senior citizens who are
Maybe full.
creative.
That's right. But it may be, if it's full, you're going to get kicked out anyway. Right?
No,
Well,
if
you
you
should
paid your
be
bill, you do
according
not
to
get
the
kicked out.
law, but what
Yeah.
you're saying is that hasn't happened, and that's.
No, I know it hasn't happened, but somehow you're going to have to,
No,
if you
they
got,
don't get kicked out.
If you're paying full price.
no, if you registered as a senior.
Right.
Okay, could we resolve this when you present in May?
We absolutely can.
Okay, okay. All right. So can we have a motion to accept the status quo of tuition and mandatory fees?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes?
I just want to say, I'm thrilled that, unlike peer institutions across the state, that this board and this college and this community has supported us to be in a place in which we are not raising our student tuition. I think that's really important to our students, and I want to thank our community for their generosity in having that happen.
And I think that's a good point. It is because of the mill levy, the additional mill that is now going into operations, that we aren't in the situation of many of our other schools, where they have to raise tuition in order to pay for the mandated salary increase. So we are fortunate there. Thank you, Santa Fe. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. What's next? I've lost my agenda. Okay. Adjunct faculty salary schedule. That is on E17. Who's,
We're deciding.
Oh, okay.
We're tossing a coin over here. What we've done on the adjunct schedule that is in front of you has been increased by 4% to reflect the 4% increase on there. This would become, if approved today, this new rate would become effective with the fall term of 2019.
so this begins August, whenever we start?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, when contracts are finalized, Madam Chair.
Fall contracts.
Yeah, fall contract.
And why wouldn't it apply to the summer if the budget takes effect July 1?
This is the way it has been throughout the time, and also because the summer one bridges 2 different fiscal years, and so the summer contracts start in possibly May, And so they're contracted at that rate at the time of the contract is. And so this begins with the fall contract.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move approval.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Okay. Miscellaneous wage schedule. And that is,
Staff.
wait,
E. E.
oh, staff, sorry.
Do we have any people with 73-plus years of teaching experience?
Credit hours.
Pardon?
It's credit hours?
Well, the schedule we just approved says Santa Fe Community College teaching experience, 0 to 12, 13 to 24. It doesn't say anything about hours. It says teaching experience, 73 plus. 73 plus what? Years?
Credit hours.
Credit hours.
Days? Months? Full moons?
Madam Chair, Board Member Sullivan, the way I understand it is it's 73 credit hours after their master's degree towards, making progress towards like a PhD program.
Okay, well, we've already approved it, but
Wait, we have,
make a suggestion that you would put credit hours in there.
wait, go ahead, do you want to,
Is that it, Margaret?
is that, what?
Yeah, no. So,
I got-
so it's, see, the column is teaching experience. Therefore, the teaching experience that it's referring to is the credit hours of teaching experience at Santa Fe Community College that the person has on that very first column. So the first one is 0 to 12 credit hours of teaching experience, all the way to 73 credit hours plus of teaching experience.
So we've already approved it, but my suggestion is just,
The notes do clarify the credit hours on that.
Down below.
I think it would be easier if you just put credit hours in that chart.
Yeah.
So it's not years.
No, it's not.
Okay.
That'd be pretty cool.
To the staff salary schedule.
I like that.
Staff.
On the staff schedule, the only thing that's been adjusted there is that the pay bands have been adjusted to make sure that all of them are beginning at the point of the living wage. And so pay band 6, you can see that the living wage of $11.80 is the start of that. And it just balances out as it goes through the other pay bands. And that's the only adjustment you're seeing in front of you on that.
Okay, nothing, there's no compaction addressing of,
It does compact the pay band 6 a little bit because of that, because it's shortening the gap in there. So yes, there's a little bit on there.
Does that include the 4%?
No, these are just the pay bands for a position.
Okay.
And the 4% would apply to staff's existing earnings.
I see.
okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Okay, now, the miscellaneous.
Once again, the only change that you're seeing on the miscellaneous is adjustment for the living wage, and that is showing as the student employee rate it went from 1140 to 1180 with this change. And then also you'll see that if we have a temp that has fallen into temporary, temp 1 is the classification, it will also begin at 1180.
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may add on to that. This is a really neat thing about SFCC. While our college doesn't have to, by law, adhere to the county living wage ordinance and increases, every year, the institution has always elected to participate in it. And it's really been visionary in a lot of ways because now that the legislature has passed a statewide minimum wage that's required to, I think, 3 years from now be at $12 an hour, we're right there, and we've made progress towards that mark. During the legislature, a lot of other higher education institutions were really stressing out about this issue, but it's because of the foresight here that we were really well positioned to be able to do this, and we will be able to meet the $12 minimum wage coming up in the next 3 years.
Okay.
Move approval, miscellaneous wage and salary schedule.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. All right, now we're on to the whole budget for submission to higher ed. And where is that? In the budget book? Are we just going to go back to the, okay, all right.
Let's do the slide.
And if you want to refer to the slides, this is the slideshow. There is a copy of the slideshow in your book under scenarios, and it should be the very first one, and it is dated as of today's date.
And we did review this at our work session, if you recall. For the benefit of the public, we do want to review it again. So this is the budget development for FY 19-20, beginning with revenues, broad estimates. The state appropriation increased by $911,000 for FY 20 for a total of $10.8 million. The ING base appropriation increased by $807,000. Of the $807,000 base increase, SFCC received $348,000 for the compensation increase. This increase in revenue only covers 36% of a 4% compensation plus benefit increase for SFCC. So we have to come up with a rest.
Right.
Also included in the base is $68,000 for dual credit state appropriation revenue. SFC also received $150,000 for the firstborn program and $254,000 for nursing expansion, but that is for RPSP projects. Continuing with revenues, the mill levy is projected to increase by $2.6 million from the FY19 original budget. Tuition and fees are projected to decrease by $695,000 from the original FY19 budget. With the projected decrease in tuition and fees revenue, the recommendation is to not increase tuition or fees for FY20 budget, which I believe is what you already did. Other sources and sales services revenue projected to decline by about $70,000. So the total available new ING revenues for FY20 initiatives is $2.8 million. The next slide includes revenue charts comparing FY19 revenue to FY20 revenue. The 51% of our FY19 budget came from local government appropriations, 28% from sales and services. Wait, I'm looking at the wrong color, I'm sorry. State and government appropriations, is 28% in FY19. 21% of our budget is tuition and fees, and then it's the little tiny 0% for sales and services of educational activities for FY19. Now looking over at FY20 projected ING revenues, our local government appropriations we expect will go up 3% to 54%. Our state government appropriations remain the same at 28%, and our tuition and fees would go down to 18%, and it's negligible what we expect from sales and services of educational activities. So in looking at developing our budget, we have some data that we wanted to review regarding our historical performance, our metrics. So the historical fall of student credit hours is shown on the next slide and begins in 2008, and you see that in 2018 we're at about 33,440 credit hours. What's interesting about this slide is that there's
a relationship between the credit hours generation and the Santa Fe unemployment rate. So currently, our unemployment rate for 2018 is 4.1%, and what we see happening at Santa Fe Community College is similar to other colleges in the state and the country. With low unemployment, people are choosing to work rather than take classes, at the college. They want to bring in some money for their families, for themselves. However, in spite of the drop in credit hours, we have seen some real positive signs at the college in that we are helping students complete degrees and certificates at the highest rate ever, at the highest number ever. So that, we started, when we kept track of data, 344 degrees and certificates completed in 2008-09, and in 2017-18, our students completed 1,022 degrees and certificates, and we've also added quite a few certificates to the college curriculum to help meet the needs, the workforce demands, so that our students are able to complete more rapidly a certificate and go to work, but the certificate is nested in our degree program so that the student can come back and continue to work on his or her degree. The other positive in our data is that we have very strong 3-year graduation rates, to the point where we were at 23% in 17 and 2018, just 1% down, but we're expecting to go up in 2019 again. So again, starting at only 11% in 2008 and all the way up to 23 and 22%. We also have had the highest retention rates in the history of the college. So in fall 2017 to 2018, our retention rate was 65%. And as you see, it's the third highest in the state after Mesa Lands and Clovis Community College, but we're higher than all the rest of the independent community colleges in the state. Consequently, the next slide shows that in terms of New Mexico higher education performance based on funding formula, in 2011-12, we were 17th out of 17 community colleges in the state. Last year, the funding formula showed, or because we were rewarded because of our performance, so that we were the second highest community college out of the 17 for performance-based funding. Moving on to our expenses for FY20, what we're projecting them to be. The funding ING expenses for FY20, 4% increase plus fringe, compensation study allocation, fringe benefit rate increase from 33% to 35% for all regular employees, 3.51% increase for the living wage from $11.40 an hour to $11.80 an hour. So the total cost of all that is $2.3 million. So the new revenues that we covered earlier were $2.8 million. If we subtract 2.3 million, we have $558 million left that we can use for funding new budget requests.
558,000.
I'm sorry, 550, I got excited. $558,000, shucks. Yeah, 558,000, thank you for fixing that. And so of that 558,000, we are spending $159,000 to institutionalize some grant positions. They're all faculty positions in respiratory, in building, and in nursing. So then that leaves us with approximately $399,000 left. And the next slide shows our expense budget for 19 compared to the FY20 proposed budget. So the orange being the 19 and the gray being the FY20. And so you see instruction will increase slightly
Academic services, just a tiny little bit of an increase there, as well as in student support services, we're increasing by, let's see, that's 500,000, little bit in instructional support, and tiny little bit in plant. So when we went through the preparation for this budget process, we asked the college to submit the requests for budget next year for 2020, and we received $1,572,560 worth of requests. And what we're proposing is that I can't hardly read that, I'm sorry, and I don't know if I have the right number, to fund, is it 557, that included the institutionalization of those positions. Yeah, that includes that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And on the next page, just shows a pie chart of how those budget funding requests, how they would, what categories they would fall in. And the very last slide are the positions and expenses that we're recommending that you approve for funding in the FY20 budget. And in those requests, of those requests, 4 of those fall into instructional requests, 3 fall into student services requests, 2 into instructional support expenses, and 1 under academic support. So the total equaling $398,306.26. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Hello?
I wasn't going to do that. I was going to let George do it. A quick question, when we talk about the differences between the expenses in FY19 versus FY20 in the budget we're looking at, can you give us a breakdown of what the percentage differences are across our different budget areas? So instruction, academic support, student support, institutional support, and plant.
You know, I think that is actually found in the second to the last pie chart, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct? Because you've got some percentages there, or am I? Oh, there's another place? Okay.
I think that gives us, if I'm looking at it right, the percentages of what the budget looks like this year, but it's not a comparison.
Oh, comparison.
What the increase is between 19 and 20?
So if you go back to your Exhibit 2 on your multicolored sheet, you'll see there's little numbers located between fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20, and that is the change between fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20 for those entities.
See it.
So if I'm tracking it right, in
you'll see that, I'm sorry, that's the actual percentage of what they are for the budget. So you can see Exhibit 10 is got 46% in fiscal year 20, and you know what, I have to get you something to give you the breakdown, the variance between the two, and I can certainly get you that. I don't have that on here, I'm sorry, I didn't look at it that direction.
but would we be able to tell from, so in the purple column, which is FY18 report of actuals, there, after that there's an 80%, and then after the final bar, between that and the proposed, there's an 85. So would that be an increase of 5%? Sorry, I'm looking at the Exhibit 1.
Oh, Exhibit 1.
At the very, those in the gray, there's, so if I wanted to know the difference, if instruction in general is going from 80 to 85, there's a 5% increase. Is that correct?
Or 87, actually.
Comparison?
Actually, let me refer you to something else, I'm sorry. If you go over to, in your budget workbook, in the work papers section, there is under ING, it's one of the cardstock dividers. There is a target and measures in there. And on the targeted measures, you will see in the middle section, it's got all of the exhibits in ING 10 through 14, and it's got on there what percentage they were of the fiscal year 19 budget, and then it's also showing you their percentage that they are now in the fiscal year 20 budget. And so you can see instruction actually is exactly the same as what it was. And then you're going to see that academic support actually increased just a 0.3% on there. And then you can just basically go all the way down from there to see how those are varying between them.
So we're increasing academic support, student support in this budget.
Yes, as a percentage of the whole, yes.
Thank you.
I would also point out that if you aggregate those exhibits, instruction, academic support, and student success, 68% of our ING budget is going to those areas that are directly related to, student success. That would be about 25.1 million of the 37 million dollar budget.
Thank you, and that's exactly what I was looking at in terms of priorities. Does our budget reflect our priorities in serving students?
Yes.
And as far as salary increases, this budget includes the legislative mandate for a 4% staff salary increase, a 4% increase for adjunct faculty based on the salary schedule, and an aggregate increase of 4% for faculty, including the collective bargaining unit members. And these increases will take effect on July 1, 2019, or in accordance with the contracts that people have, except for the collective bargaining unit, which will be delayed until an agreement is reached in accordance with the labor relations resolution.
Yes, Madam Chair, and just to clarify, those faculty changes would be based upon an agreed upon contract, correct? As well as there are some faculty members that are not in the bargaining unit, and those increases would go into effect at the same time adjuncts would go into effect in pursuant to their contracts, which start at the beginning of the academic year in August.
Which is
Fall
the
semester.
fall term.
Fall semester.
Right.
The fall term is.
Right. Okay, anything else? How about a motion to approve the FY20 budget?
Madam Chair, I move approval.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Madam Chair, can I just say a quick thank you to our finance staff who's done a great job in putting together a complicated budget in a year where there were lots of changes.
Yes,
Yes.
Madam Chair, thank you for that. It has been a collective effort. We've worked with the Financial Review Committee. We spent 6 hours working with them on some of these proposals and working on communication with that team. One thing we didn't talk about was, or we hit on it a little bit, but our transfers this year will set us on the course to have about $6.5 million in our cash reserves, where like 2 years ago, we were really struggling with the valley of death in November. We've remedied that. We've been able to provide the 4% pay increases in terms of what the legislature did, which costs about $816,000. We've been able to maintain the living wage. We've been able to fund, inflation costs related to benefits of the college. So healthcare is always going up, retirements, taxes, things like that. And you know, it's a very comprehensive budget. So thanks for all of your help with it and setting the direction for the college.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, property disposal list for FY 19.
Yes, Madam Chair,
We
this is,
always love doing that.
yeah, this is the required task every year. All of the property that we have, really over $1,000 has to be reported to you that we plan to dispose of it. In your packets, you'll see that a lot of the items are outdated IT equipment, ranging from really 2008. So those items are over 10 years old, and IT equipment goes out, becomes obsolete very quickly. So with that, this is a requirement of the state auditor, and also the New Mexico Higher Education Department. And so with that, stand for any questions.
I just have a question about the last column, current net book value. No value, virtually all of them say, no value less than $5,000. Should it be,
$5.
yeah, should that say $5 or
No,
what does that mean?
the no value less than 5,000 is really, I think it's for internal bookkeeping, really. What we're required to present to you ultimately is any item that is really under $5,000. So I think that's what that's getting to. Yeah, and that's a good point, Amy. Tilly just mentioned that we have to depreciate those items over 5,000 according to, you know, accounting rules and also state rules. And so really these are those items for the most part. If you go to the end of the report, you'll see there's some items over 5,000
Yes.
that have
Right.
that have been identified as fully depreciated. And so there's no more useful life on those items. And so really the other ones are those items under $5,000. I think that their classification's just a little bit
Do we just
confusing.
get rid of these all at once, or these have been going all year long?
Yes, all year long. So the last time we did this was about around this time a year ago.
Yeah, right.
This is what accumulates over the years. It takes up space in our general services area, and so we really need to dispose of them. We'll work with a auctioneer to dispose of these items.
Oh, we
And
don't,
it's all in compliance with the
Yeah.
procurement code.
we don't give them to federal or state surplus. We have an auctioneer take them away.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair, full of questions. This is always my favorite list.
Yes.
right? So as a board, we're supposed to be verifying that all this stuff is here.
Right.
We obviously didn't go down and inventory all of it. So can you talk to us about the process by which we inventory and know what we have that's available and we value it?
Yes.
And how we value it?
So ultimately, let's see if I can, we have software basically that identifies when we receive a new piece of equipment that would fall into these categories. It identifies the date we received it and the amount, and then it, you know, if it's depreciable over 5,000, year after year, the value of that item is depreciated, and it only has a particular useful life. What we do, we have our shipping and receiving area of the college, which is in my department. It's the general services office, and they receive all of these things. They tag them, they record them, they match purchase orders that have been approved with invoices and we do that to separate duties. So all of the purchasing is basically authorized in advance, and then once we receive these items, they match them up with those purchasing authorizations as well as invoices. So you have checks and balances on all of these items that we receive through our shipping and receiving. Also, our IT department, they keep track of this on their own. They have their own software that keeps track of it. And so it's actually pretty accurate. Those items over 5,000 are all tagged with special barcoding, and so it's there's quite a few controls over it.
Okay, is there a motion?
I motion to sell it.
Thank you.
I think the motion is, let's see, what is the motion? To approve the disposal list.
Approved. I approve the disposal list.
For FY19. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And we have the audit contract.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is a requirement for the board to approve. The audit contract should be in your packets. I won't talk about the vendor that is in your packets until after it's approved. But this is a State of New Mexico audit contract. It is set forth by the Office of the State Auditor. It is a template. They basically issue it to us and require us to use it. We don't put this together. Our contract with our prior auditor, which was Axiom CPAs and Advisors, it expired really. When we did the last RFP for that contract, it allowed us to have 3 years, and those 3 years have since expired. So earlier, a few months ago, we set forth on another RFP in compliance with the state audit rule, and we've identified the vendor that's in your packets. And with that, it's a straightforward contract. We are asking for the approval of this contract, which would be for 1 year, but also with the ability to renew for up to 2 additional years.
Okay, why can't we say the name?
What's up there?
It's
I'm seeing the name here,
yeah.
but we can't say the name until we approve the contract?
That would be wise to do that, yes.
Okay.
There's procurement rules on it.
Okay.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve the contract for the audit?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Quick question. So is the dollar amount fixed by the state too?
No,
Or is it
that's,
based on the workload?
Madam Chair, Board Member Keith, the RFP, just that competitive process, it requires the vendors to all submit proposals and quote a price for it. There were 3 vendors that actually responded to us, and this was the lowest cost. And in this, in their proposal, they held the price fixed for 3 years. And it was, it really was the best price that was offered in our RFP proposal.
Okay, any other discussion? Yeah.
So how often do we actually change auditors? Does it depend on the proposal process, or?
No, I mean, we have to go out to RFP every 3 years.
Okay.
So normally your same auditor will respond to that, you know. And so that's basically it. Anybody that's on the approved list of the state auditor's approved CPA auditing firms to audit governments, they put that list together, and the auditor that you select has to be on that list, and the one in your packets is on that list.
But isn't it a good business practice periodically, and I don't know what the time frame is, to actually ensure that you have a different auditor?
And we have switched out.
Yeah, we have.
The
Have we?
last 15 years, I think we've had 4 different auditing.
Okay, okay.
So we actually switched that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Did we have motions? Yes, we did. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the firm is Axiom CPA and Business Advisors.
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So no information items. Policy, we did our first reading. We discussed this catering on campus policy. Board reports, discussion, other business. Anybody have anything? I would like to ask that we had such a great tour of the greenhouse, our new greenhouse, that in May, that we get a comprehensive presentation of what's happening at the Trades and Technology Center with all the different partnerships. And I mean, I was hearing about things that I hadn't heard about, and just a whole dog and pony show about what we're doing out there with Luke and all those people.
Thought you wanted to go back to see what had grown since this month.
I think we can do that on our own,
Okay,
right?
yeah, absolutely. you
But I
can.
think a full-blown presentation would really help us understand.
And I would suggest that a
going on?
full-blown presentation also include some photos.
Yes.
Because I don't think you get
Yes.
a concept of what that facility is and what it does unless you have a visual. for it.
And all the other
Yeah.
things that we're doing there,
Yeah.
and these partnerships that, I mean, these incredible partnerships,
Yes.
this pharmaceutical that we're
Yeah.
partnering with.
And the contributions, that we've
Yeah.
been receiving.
Yeah.
Have that listed also.
Right, right. The Sandia giving us
Right.
batteries, and, I mean, stuff is happening there.
Clients.
Okay, do we have any other, regular board meeting, May 22nd? Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All's in favor? Aye, opposed?
No, we don't need
We
to.
don't need
Motion
to.
to no closed session.
We had it.
We are done.
You're done.
That was a tough